Namaskar. Sometimes we come across with some questions like what is a DLL in C Sharp or VB? What does a DLL do? How do I reference a DLL in C Sharp or VB programs? Well, a DLL or a dynamic link library is a library having a set of functions or codes. These functions could be called by a different programs. These programs or function consumer programs may be a part of different application or projects. Therefore, different applications or projects which are not at all in the project created by the DLL or the library project, those could be contained in a different projects or applications, or those application or projects can call dynamic link library or DLL. Therefore, it helps in providing a distributed architecture of the application. Therefore, it does not need to regenerate a exe or executing file for a change in the function, as it may be contained in a DLL which could be redistributed later on. Therefore, when a program is redistributed, those DLL are packaged and provided for installation and running of the program. In a program, we have to add the reference or import the DLL file. Both the DLL and exe files are executable programs modules. But the difference is that we cannot execute DLL files directly. For example, if you have visited the folder, if you visit this folder, that is the VS Perf collection tools, where you can find there are a lot of DLLs you can find, and these DLLs are being consumed by the Visual Studio. In this example, we'll create two different methods or functions and then compile them in a same dynamic link library. Then we'll use the library in a program. But let us understand two concepts beforehand to understand the DLL. The first is a class and objects. What is a class and an object? A class is a user-defined blueprint. Like a blueprint could be like of a house before building it, or a prototype from which objects are created. A class combines the fields and the methods into a single unit. Therefore, a class can contain two different things. One is the fields, which are termed as properties or attributes, and methods, which could be consumed during the implication or application of the object. A class enables you to create your custom type by grouping variables of the other type, methods, and events. Let us understand the class and object in a simple term. A cookie cutter is a class, and cookie or biscuit is an object. Mold of a candle is a class, and candle is an object. You can hold the candle, you can lit a candle could be used for its application. But a class or mold of the candle is not useful for who is going to use a candle. A button from a toolbox in Visual Studio is a class. When we create an object or a button on the web page, it is an object. So, class defines the structure and behavior of an object which will be created from the class. One can create a class from another class. Here, the class created is called as a child class, and the class from which it was created, called as a parent class. The second concept we would like to understand is what is a namespace. In C Sharp or Visual Basic, a namespace are used to logically arrange namespace, that is a nested namespace, or a namespace in between the namespace, classes, structs, interface, enums, and delegates. Therefore, the namespace in C Sharp can be nested. That means one namespace can contain other namespace also. The .NET framework already contains several standard namespaces like system, system.net, system.io, likewise. In addition to these standard namespace, the user can define their own namespaces. Further, a namespace is designed for providing a way to keep one set of name separated from the another. The class names declared in one namespace does not conflict with the same class names declared in another. In the example of DLL, we will put two functions in a namespace. As you can say that inventory management is a namespace. For example, if we create an application which is as inventory management, it can call other namespaces like system.web or system.web.ui or system.web.ui.webcontrols. Here's an example using a system that is a namespace. A namespace hello world could be created which can contain a program as a class, and then that class can contain a method named as static void main, which can consume different arguments, and then it can return something. Let us understand the relation between a DLL and an application. A DLL, for example, in this case, we will create a DLL having a namespace utility methods that will contain two classes. So these two classes may contain different web methods, and those classes could be consumed by an application, say named as test code as a class. So we'll create this example and then we'll understand how it is working. So let us run the Visual Studio and let us continue without code. Now let us click on the tool menu option and then command line, and there will be a developer command prompt. Let us click on it. You can repeat or create this exercise on the Visual Studio itself, but for those who are interested in creating in the command prompt or the developer command prompt, let us create a folder and let us name it as test. So md, so make a directory, and in this directory we'll create a folder called test. Let's go to the folder test. You can go to this folder through the Explorer, Windows Explorer, by copying this and then pasting on a Windows File Explorer like this way. Let us create two different files and having same namespaces. Let's create it. For these, let us create by using any kind of editor. Let us create a file with some codes. Say the name of the file would be, say, file colon add.cs, and we'll use a namespace let us create a namespace as utility methods, and let us create a block of code, and then let us create a class. We have created this class as a public, so we can consume this class from outside of this program file. Let us create a method public, and let us create a static and long as a integer type. Let us create a method as add with long I, one parameter, another parameter as long j. Cleanup of a code is not mandatory, but you can do for betterment. Let us return I plus j, so that I and j could be added and could be returned. Let us save this program, and let us put the name of the file at this place, that is the test. So let me copy to it and place this here, and let me name this as add.cs. and you can also do one thing. You can browse through this. If you have ever used this Notepad++, there is a beauty of it that it can create any kind of extensions file, and you can see that while creating an extension, it already provides some kind of highlights. So one file is this. Let us create another file. Let us save this file as a C# file, mult. Let us create some codes. The name of the file, this for a remark purpose, is mult.cs, and we use the namespace as we have already created, namespace as utility methods, and we'll create a class as public, and we'll now want to create a class as multiply class, and then again we will create a block of code. So, and in this we'll create a program public, static, and long, and multiply. This would name of the method long as, say, x comma long, say, y. So we will consume two different arguments, both are of long type of integer with x and y, and then we again create a block of code, Let us use the sanity, and here we will return, say, x multiplied by y, and bracket, and that is it. So now we have created two different classes. Now we have to run the C# compiler so that it can create a DLL, and the name of the DLL would be, let us create the first and then we understand what would be the name of the DLL file. So we'll go to this command prompt and we'll type CSC, there is the C# compiler, and the target is a library. By this we say that this is a library, and this would be a DLL file, and let us make output file would be a math library. Let us create a file named as mathlibrary.dll, and this will add two classes as a parameter. One is add.cs and another is mult.cs. Let us create it and see what happens. It's creating the file, and if any error there is, then it will throw it out. There is no error at all. Let's see what files are there. Here are the three files. One was add.cs, another was multi.cs, another is now we have created as a mathlibrary.dll. Let us view it in the Explorer. This is the Explorer and this is the DLL file. So now let us create a program. That is, now we have created these things. Both has a namespace of utility methods and having a class of add class, another is multiply class. Now we need to create a program which consume these two classes, and that would be test code. Let us create this class. So let us create another file, and that would be named as test code. Let us save this again in the same place, and this would be again a C# file with a name, say test code. And here we will be using two different namespace. One is the basic namespace, which is transported through the .NET framework, and another is what we have made using the utility methods. So we'll consume these two namespaces. We'll create a class, and that class would be named as test code. Let us create this class, and this class would contain a method static, void that does not return anything, a main with some string as argument, array of string type with some arguments. Let us put args, and now another block of code. Let us keep this clean, and this block of code will contain a console write line. This console write line is being contained in this system namespaces. So if we miss this, then we cannot write this. This will be an error while compiling the things. So now calling methods from math library, as we will be calling this math library DLL. Okay, let's put this to end. This will be written on the console while we'll run this program. And then if, let us put some conditions. If the arguments what we have captured having a length not equal to 2, because we want at least two different parameters. So if not equal to 2, then we want to put a message on the console, that is console dot write line. Let me put this here, and as say usage of this test code is say num1 comma say num2. So we need two different numbers, and let us close this, and then it will just return, it will do nothing. And it does not return, then we will define three different variables, rather four different variables. One will be a long, say num1, and another will be long num2, another would be long say sum as a variable, another will be long say as product. Let us capture the arguments, say long dot parse, because we want to parse the variable, as by the argument it is a string type, so we have to convert or parse the string into a long integer, long type of integer. So args and square bracket 0, because the first, we want to capture the first variable of the array or elements of the array, and then let us capture the second one, that is 1, and then let us add the two number. So it would be, say for example, we would now use add class, and this add class is what we have created or called from this utility methods. So add class, and then add, and then num1 comma num2, and then this will add and put the total sum into the variable sum, and then let us use the multiply class to multiply. This will use the method multiply from the multiply class, and again number 1 and number 2. Now what we'll need, we need to print on the console, so we'll use two different lines, and we will use the formatting commands for representing the values. Say this plus the second variable is equal to say 2, and then we will just provide the values, and those values could be, say for example, the num1 comma the num2 comma sum, and let us copy this and put this here, and now this is going to be product. That's it. So far so good. We have created the test code class also. Let us now compile this, and we will compile this again, and this time we will use CSC, and then we'll refer, so reference the math library what we have created earlier, .dll, and it will be consumed by the test code .cs. Now let us create the exe file, and this will create a exe file as testcode.exe. Now it has created a file called testcode.exe, and there were no errors. So let us now run the testcode.exe, and let us see in the, there is it. So now let us run the program, and we'll put, let me put this a bit higher so that you can view it. Yeah. So now test code, let us enter it first. Now it is saying the calling method from library DLL usage is test code number 1 and number 2. So let's put as 1 2 3, and the second would be say 7 8 9. What happens? Let us see. Now you can see that 1 2 3, if we add with this, then it would be 912, and if we multiply these two numbers, let's multiply it. Say 1 2 3 into 7 8 9, it comes about 97.97047. So it is there 97,047. So now what did you understood is that, let us do one thing more so as to clear it up. So let us just have a comment this line. Now what will happen? Let us see. Let us recompile the program again, and let us see what happens. This is the program compilation command, so we'll just do this. Now it is saying that the test code, this line, in this line there is the 17, the line number 17 is this, and line number 18 is this. Both of these are not referenced. So now this is the thing. And what if we just comment this also, then what will happen? Let us create again, and now there are a lot of more, because now console is not even being understood by this. So using statement provide you to use the DLLs or the namespaces where the program resides. So therefore you can now understood that this test code class is consuming this two classes from one DLL, which is having a namespace as utility method. Now I hope that you have understood clearly what is a DLL and how it is being consumed in an application. There is a premiere for the beginners. I think you have understood the concept clearly. If you have any doubt or something else, if you want to share some of your problems with me while creating a project, you can share with me. I have mail ID in the description. Thank you for the listening today, and namaskar.